Good morning, traders. How's everybody doing today? It is 8:45 a.m. About 15 minutes after the U.S. stock market open. U.S. stocks are opening just a little bit positive today, up 0.2% on the NASDAQ, 0.05 on the Dow. Just a slight positive vibe across the U.S. markets. Hope you're doing great. Hey, Shea Baby Joey. You surf? I like it. I like it. How you doing? Before I show you the trades I have going and the ones I'm looking at taking soon, I just wanted to show you a quick note here on the pound dollar. This is the trade idea that was posted here, and it's closed out in profit. We took nice profit there, 62 pips or so. Let me shrink this video out of the way. And pull this one up here for you. I'm going to toggle this over here. Give me just a moment. There we go. So this is the trade idea that I posted on the pound dollar, and it worked out perfectly. Nice trade. No problem with it there. Closed out profit. Now I'm currently out of that one, the pound dollar long. We also had this one that was posted a couple days ago. This one also hit the profit levels. No problem at all. And that was another good one. And then now we have the euro pound short going. And let's see here. Looks like Andrew is in the same thing. I haven't talked to Andrew for, well, a day or two. I mean, that seems like a long time when we're doing the rooms all the time, but we're going to be doing our Friday joint stream tomorrow morning at 7:45 unless plans change. This one is currently a nice profit. I put two small orders on the euro pound. I listed them here, 84.87, 84.79. I did pull my stops down a little bit, so we'll take a look at that. But currently, the trade has just about 50 pips of profit so far. So I hope you all got a little piece of that one, hopefully. I wanted to show you this on Trump. I think it's interesting. Last night, we had a lot of strength coming into the Canadian dollar because Donald Trump decided not to cancel NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And I'll show you on the charts, as you probably know, a lot of that came back again because of this. He said, I received calls from President of Mexico and Prime Minister of Canada asking to renegotiate NAFTA rather than terminate it, and I agreed. So that's good news for Canada and the Canadian dollar. But then he said, subject to the fact that if we do not reach a fair deal for all, then we will terminate NAFTA. Relationships are a good deal, very possible. So, you know, all the power of that statement that came out last night was quickly taken away. As long as I have the web tab up here, let's take a look at the news. Unemployment claims out of the U.S. came in worse than expected. Of course, we have the big ECB press conference. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Kept interest rates at 0. So let's get into the charts. All right, so this is currently where we're at with the euro pound. Let me pull this back up on the 1 hour. How's it going, Alpha? Axio Studios. Shea Baby says review euro, dollar, euro, yen. We will do that, you betcha. Here's Ferris 617. Nice job. All right, so we're going to reset this. So this is the euro pound short. Hopefully you guys got in this, or at least looking at it. I've been pretty fortunate with the trade ideas lately. I think I've had a nice slew of winners and without any losers, but that doesn't happen all the time. There could be losers. The next 3 I post could be losers. So definitely don't take the trade ideas without studying them first. That's why we call it trade ideas. It's not a full-blown call. It's just an idea looking at, and you can weigh the risks. I'm going to pull my stops down a little bit now. I'm going to put them at the top of this wick that came through after the ECB news. So again, I have two different orders here on the euro pound short. They're about 8 pips apart or so. If we just put our cursor in the middle, currently have 53 pips or so of profit. We had the big whip, of course, during ECB news. I set my targets pretty extended. I think we had roughly we had a 3-to-1 reward to risk. I had roughly a 30 pip stop, give or take a few pips, with a 100 pip or so profit level. And you know, when you can get a 3-to-1, that's pretty darn good, and it's not that common to do it repeatedly. Obviously, the more reward that you have versus risk, the less likely the trade is to simply hit your profit if you don't touch it. But I think the trade's looking good. I like the 4-hour bars, how they're starting to lengthen slightly. 1 hour, we have that rejection sort of pin bar there. And you can see, looking at the daily all the way across here, my profit level set at 83.83 is still above this support area, which came in right around here. So still fairly conservative. You know, if we do push all the way down, let's say we drop, this is the way I'm going to manage this trade, by the way. If we push down another 25 pips or so, I'm going to pull my stops down, and I may even extend the profit levels down a little bit further. As far as just straight up trade ideas, it's a little hard that way, because when we post a trade idea, when any of you post a trade idea, we want the trade idea to have set levels, right? So we can say, hey, this won, or hey, this lost. But you have to remember, I'm also trading my own live money in 3 different accounts. This one's copied onto another account as well. And when I'm trading my own money, I want to have the good trade ideas, but I also want to maximize my profits. So if the fundamentals continue to show pound strength and mixed to weaker fundamental, prowess, if you will, on the euro, I'll continue to straddle this, if it lets me, all the way down and keep pushing it lower. So I'll keep you posted on that, of course, in the chat today. Thursday is a good day for me. I'm around most all of the day in the chat. I do a couple streams today. I'll be doing another one at 8 p.m. And don't forget, tomorrow, 7:45 Central Time, Andrew and I will be on. Now, I think he may have had something come up. I'm not sure. We might have to change that, but it's set up right now for 7:45 tomorrow morning. Last week's was a little bit of a, you might remember that one. Yeah, we won't go down that road, but he had a computer problem, and I had a Skype issue, and we ended up, he gave a really good analysis, probably one of the best I've ever heard Andrew give last week, talking about the French elections coming up and that kind of thing. He's really, really good at that stuff, and I thought it was great. But we didn't save the stream because it was really sort of a mess with our technical issues. So hopefully this tomorrow we'll have that all ironed out. So that's where I'm currently at. Short euro pound. As you know, I took a couple stabs at the euro CAD long over the last couple days. I wasn't confident enough to post them as official trade ideas because technically it wasn't the right time to enter, but fundamentally I wanted to get long on the euro CAD, and you can see what's happened. I mean, this pullback, that 70 some pips, I tried to get long here, got hit for a stop. We had a really nice rise up again. The news out of Canada came out with Trump saying he wouldn't get rid of NAFTA, and we had this real strong move in the Canadian dollar strength. And then it sort of faded because we all found out that, well, he still might get rid of it. He's just trying to haggle with them, and it wasn't quite as exciting as it looked. And now we're pushing back down. This last move, of course, is due mainly to the euro weakness. And if we flip right over to the dollar CAD on the same time frame, we see similar moves, but we don't see this last push down in the end because, of course, we don't have the euro weakness here. And we do have the dollar index catching a bid, as you can see. This is the hourly time frame. Sitting at 99.17, coming up on a very important area here. Let's see if I can draw this in somewhat relative. So we have these wicks at the bottom of this gray box poking up as strong resistance for the DXY. And then we have these wicks coming down as support, as resistance on the other side of the box. So we have resistance on the bottom, and then we have resistance coming in at the top, and we have this gap that has basically filled on the DXY. And again, these gaps, Very important, and I'm just talking about the gap right here, not the large gap here, but the gap from this one to this swing low. The overall gap is still up at 99.60 some. But remember, different brokers have different gaps. It depends on your broker. So this might be non-existent on some brokers, could be a solid candlestick. Other brokers, it could be even larger. Some brokers open a little earlier or a little later than others, and they have different spreads and different liquidity providers, so the gaps can always be a little different in size. Hey, J Money, how you doing today? Any good trades going on for you guys? So what are we going to do with this? As you know, my bias has been to the downside on the DXY. Now that we've hit profits on the pound dollar long, hit the cash register, so to speak, a few times, I'm going to reset my bias now. I mean, we've topped out. My goal on the pound dollar was to get us right up near this wick, this long wick here that was put in on the 18th of April. But I was a little bit conservative. I put my profit level, 10, 12 pips above that wick. And you can see we hit that wick in just a little bit. I still think the pound dollar is going to rise. I'm definitely bullish on this pair, but I'm not bullish enough to take a trade on it at this very moment. And another thing, I had a message on Skype from a trader that I talk with quite a bit. And they said you should review your trade ideas with everybody because you've had, a nice streak of winners here with very little drawdown during the trades and profitable trades. And I'm not really that set on that because, we could have 2, 3, 4 losers in a row just as well. It just happened to be good lately. But I think it shows you something. I mean, you don't have to overtrade in the forex markets. Those 3 trades, if those are the only 3 trades you took in the last few days, you'd be doing pretty well. You don't need to get too aggressive. Try not to make something out of nothing. And trust me, if there's one person here, all of you watching, and me included, if there's one person here that knows what it's like to try to make something out of nothing and wanting to scalp and buy the next EA and the next indicator and try to get super aggressive and, be, thinking I'm going to get rich and trading all the time, I can definitely understand that because that's where I used to be years and years ago. And now, day by day, it's not as exciting, not as sexy to see it all sometimes. But when you look at weeks and months and look back over the years, there's no doubt it's much more profitable to take the good setups, exercise patience and good psychology. So what's coming up here the rest of the day? Not a whole lot of news. Pending home sales at 9 a.m. That's coming out in a couple minutes out of the U.S. Other than that, we got a little bit of New Zealand news, but nothing big, and also some real minor news out of the Japanese yen currency. We don't have the next big news until tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. Central Time. Swiss National Bank Chairman Jordan speaks. Preliminary GDP out of Great Britain, GDP out of Canada, and advanced GDP out of the U.S. So, in my humble opinion, with the exception of the Swiss news and the pound news tomorrow, we pretty much got smooth sailing for the rest of the week. And when I say smooth sailing, what I mean by that is there's not a lot of planned news events that can throw a wrench into your trade plan. So if we're seeing these small trends like the rise of the pound yen, the rise of the dollar yen, it's not the worst time possibly to get in on some of those trades and, eke out your 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 pip type of trades and not be too concerned about things reversing in impulsive manner. Now, if something happens to North Korea, we're going to see the yen pairs just tank. That's my opinion anyway. So you always have to have your stops in place, or anywhere else in the world. But that kind of thing is hard to predict. Aussie buck, interesting stuff here, right? Let me put my trade on that we took right through or up to the news last time. Those euro pound trades that I have, by the way, a 0.6 lot and a 0.8 lot are up 8.85 right now. Just looking at my terminal there for a moment. The Aussie dollar, This is the trade that we wrote out together in the stream the other night, and I got out just before the news, like a couple minutes before. And since that time, the Aussie buck has fell, 88 pips. But it's just a good little indicator of bearing to remind me where we are with this pair. 75 cents has really been a stickler for the Aussie buck for a long time, and you can see we blew right through that. So where do I think the Aussie dollar is going to go? If you look to the left and try to get these clues out of the market in the structure of these candlesticks, this thing should just continue to fall. Now, if you don't like playing the uncertainty of the US dollar, because I think the US dollar, in my humble opinion, is the hardest one to predict anyway. Obviously, it's getting some strength today, but it's a little bit more volatile, in my opinion, with Trump and all the things going on around the world than some of the other currencies. I still would prefer to take, the Aussie versus the euro or versus the pound or versus the yen as a different way to try to capitalize on Aussie weakness. But this is about as clean cut as a sell as you can get if you look at the daily. And on the weekly, we have this thing rounding down. If I pump up the weekly here a little bit, we have this trend line here, something like that. We have lower highs, double bottom here. I think we're going to continue to push lower on the Aussie dollar. We have this strong area now of resistance to the upside at 74.70. You could even be a little bit more conservative on this daily time frame and put the resistance at 74.90. So if you're trading on a long-term chart, I think an Aussie dollar short is a good one to be in. And you could have your stops, again, long-term trading, you got to have small order size, right, relative to your account. If you had your stops at 35 to 40 pips or even as much as 55 or 60 pips, you still have a huge potential for reward to risk on the downside on the Aussie dollar. I see, Aussie weakness continuing. I see pound strength continuing. The dollar, though, is a little bit more, mixed in my mind. So let's take a look at the all-important strength meter before we get into the euro dollar, euro yen, that type of thing. And I think those of you who've been watching the streams for months and months and months know this, but for those of you who are newer, this is Andrew's strength meter that he had coded up and that we use here at Forex Signals, and you can find it right under the tab next to Trade Ideas and Top Trader Contest. But I'm new to it. I've only been using it for maybe 2 months or so. And the more I use it, the more I like it, because it does the same general idea as having all those charts up on my screen. But it's just nice to see how these currency pairs are varying away from the 20 moving average of that pair. And the one that's pushing down the most right now in the hourly is the euro. The one that's rising the strongest is the pound, and it has been for a while. So fortunately, with the trade idea and the trade that I'm in right now, the best trade that this is telling you to take right at this very moment is a sell on the euro versus the pound, the weakest currency versus the strongest. And we see the dollar is strong all the way across the board, as well as the pound. The weakest currency, it's sort of mixing here a little bit. New Zealand's definitely weak, but you get the idea. Just looking at Andrew's commentary here. You might see once in a while in the chat room, Andrew posts just like I post or anyone else posts, but he can put a little tag on and have it show up on your broker platform right in the window here. So once or twice a day or so, he'll put little updates in there for you, which is really cool. It's sort of neat to think that you can be unplugged from Forex Signals altogether and just on your own live account and see some of his commentary there. So that's pretty cool. So that's where the strength meter is showing us. Let's take a look at a couple trade possibilities now that are coming up. First of all, euro pound, it's looking pretty good. I mean, I'm getting close to that point now where I'm thinking about pulling some stops down, possibly, maybe adding another little order in here. and maybe even moving the targets down a little bit. We'll see. I mean, I'm not quite sold on that yet, so I'm just going to let it go as it is. Zero risk trade right now. Euro dollar. If you look at the euro dollar here, I mean, this is the most commonly traded pair in the forex market. It's a pair that in the last few months, have not traded a lot. We did have a couple here on it though, didn't we? Yeah, we had this one. That's the only trade I had in the euro dollar, I think. Yeah, in the last, week or two. This is the only trade that I had. Took about 50 pips, 49 pips off of it. But if you look at this, now, I would not give this validity in my mind, but we have this head and shoulders pattern here. But I don't like this left shoulder. I mean, this is just a gap, and there's spreads and volatility, and it can be different on different brokers. But it is, possible head and shoulders pattern. If we respect this as a head and shoulders, which I don't, so don't take it to the bank. But if we did respect it as a nice head and shoulders here rolling over, the way that I like to trade them is you draw, and you have to get your neckline drawn in here. I don't know if I like this wick here, but let's use this one just for now. You draw from the top of the head to the neckline, which is roughly 100 pips. And then you project that back down, which is roughly 100 pips. That would put a target at 107.46. Can be a little bit more safe and call it 107.56. So that'd be our target to the downside on the euro, which just so happens to be in the neighborhood of filling up this gap. So could that happen? Sure. And we know the markets don't like gaps, and traders assume that this gap will fill eventually. But it's interesting how, that's one of the mysteries, if you will, of trading, especially in the forex, with the technicals. We know that the markets don't like gaps, but we know that the euro has been very strong, and that's why I bought it, and the fundamentals. Then all of a sudden you have the ECB come out, and we have discussions about maybe things aren't as great, or maybe they're not going to be as strong as we thought. And all of a sudden things turn, and these technicals start to make their way to become reality. So it's sort of an interesting thing. Do I think the euro is going to come down all that way? I don't think so right now. But I choose not to pick it against the US dollar because of that reason. I mean, look at this. This area right here. This whole area here. If you're a trader and you're trying to trade the Euro USD at this time, it's just messy. I mean, we have rejection showing us that the price should go down, but then we have this rather large gap of, well, all the way from the bottom to the top, it was about 200 pips, but the gap itself, just technically speaking, the gap's about 90 pips, give or take a few. So we have this momentum saying this thing's going to the moon, and then we have the rejection stuffing it down, and that's what makes a market, right? The volatility. But right now where we are in this little gray box, it's just too messy for me. I mean, sure, we could sell it and see this thing fill the gap. Sure, we could buy it here and see it go to the moon, but it's just not reproducible for me. Like the trade on the pound dollar that we took, the trade on the euro Aussie that we took, the trade that's in the euro pound right now, those trades to me are something that have a little bit more meat on the bone, so to speak. When you're doing your trading plan, you can say, I got the right time frame, I got the right reward to risk, I got the right market entry, whether you're in London or Asian session. I have my stops in a good place, I got fundamentals supporting me, I got technical levels coming up, and you can stack things in your favor. If I were to trade this one way though right now, and you had to have me choose it, I'd be trading it to the downside. That's what I think will happen on the euro dollar, but I'm nowhere near confident enough to take the trade myself. I think it's going to do something like this. And then they're going to say, ooh, the gap's filling. And then there's going to be this impulsive move to our target area here around 107.56, give or take a few pips. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I think that's what might happen on the euro dollar. I mean, it's fun to see how it plays out, but I'm not going to risk any of my own capital on it. And euro yen to me is the same thing. Euro yen, we know that we have the yen currency that has been weak for a while now. The risk has been on in the market. Let's take a look at the stock market. Stock markets are about as flat as they could be. They're all three, the S&P 500, the Dow 30, and the NASDAQ are all positive, but very slightly. But that's telling you that risk is on in the market. You know, the yen should weaken slightly. So we have this euro yen, which has been fairly toppy, coupled together with this new news that's saying the euro currency could weaken just a little bit. And then we have this all-important, ooh, this isn't perfect, but you get the idea. This descending trend line on the euro yen, I think, is very important. You could draw it just a little higher, just a little lower. But if you're looking at the euro yen, I think you have to have seen this, or you need to see it. There's a lot of resistance coming up here to the top set of euro yen. The same kind of resistance we do not see in the pound yen or dollar yen at this time. So would I sell the euro yen? No. I think selling the euro is a good idea right now, but I think the yen is too weak. So we'd be posing a weak euro versus a weak yen, and we're going to see some indecision here. Sorry, guys, I haven't looked at the chat a lot yet. Jacob TS, take profit on GU. Thank you. Yeah, no problem, man. Happy you got a piece. Jason, what do you think of dollar CAD? Let's take a look at that in a moment. G-Money posts a nice link here. Dollar Swiss. New Zealand pairs, I don't trade very much. Swiss pairs, I just don't trade at all, at least lately. Probably for a year or so. As well as Mexican peso. Is the indicator free now for everyone? Yeah, it's free. Yeah, it's free. I'm not 100% sure on the rules. I know it works with the brokers that forex signals partners with. I believe you might be able to put it on a demo as well to test it out there. Let's see. Yusuf brings up a good point. The French elections aren't over. Exactly. The first round. We got the second round coming up next week. Got to keep my mind on the calendar here. Yeah, next week. Sorry. I think the euro reaction, which happened in thin markets, is overdone. Could be. Yeah, next May. Or next week. What do you think of pound yen? Yeah, thanks, Yusuf. You got it. Okay, so we got a couple of requests here just to look over. Oh, Husky Trader. Sorry, I missed that. Euro Swiss. I just don't trade the Euro Swiss. I'm sorry. I traded it back up until the peg was hit, and I currently don't trade it any longer. But I know we want to look at the pound yen, and then we also want to take a look at dollar CAD. So we'll do the dollar CAD first. Keep things in order. Euro pound's looking good here, guys and gals. Did anybody take this trade idea? I'm just curious because I like to see if people are making money. I like to see if I have a trade idea that doesn't make money. Don't tell me about it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'd like to be always transparent here at Forex Signals. Open and honest with you all. Dollar CAD. Let's see what we have. Dollar CAD. So we had this big move down, right, on dollar CAD when Trump announced that he would not terminate NAFTA. And then we learned that maybe he's a little wishy-washy on those things. So this is a perfect example. I mean, if you need one example, guys, if you need one example of how Trump can move the markets, this is a perfect example. Because he says things, sometimes they got a lot of meat to them, other times they don't. This is a huge announcement. But he's not saying that he's still, going to keep it going. He's basically saying, we're going to try to renegotiate it. And if I don't like it, I'm still going to cancel it. So the Canadian dollar takes a hit again. Of course, the last couple of days, we've been talking about the softwood, the lumber, 20% up to 23% import tax that the U.S. is going to be putting on Canadian lumber. We talked about the agreements with the U.S. and the Canadian dairy industry. And basically, We tie that together with crude just basically collapsing, and everything that I know fundamentally about the Canadian dollar, outside of that one comment from Trump, is telling me that the Canadian dollar is just going to get hit. And for the last couple of days, I've been telling you my opinions on it. I think the Canadian dollar is going to be one of the weakest currencies for a while now. Of course, we had this big hiccup here when he said, I'm not going to cancel NAFTA. So I think the dollar CAD is poised to go up. The one pattern that I really don't like to trade, and I've told you all this for a long time, this is my least favorite type of pattern, the expanding wedge, call it the megaphone pattern, if you will. Let's see. Awesome. I'm in Euro Pound. What's the trade plan in Euro Pound? I did cover that a little bit, CKN. I'll go over it again here as well. I'm going to all over it. Made money. Joey says instance yesterday. Nice work. Kenny FX. Just another thing. Still all here. Cool. Trump is a currency manipulator. Right on. You got it. So this pattern, I don't like to trade. And we have higher highs, lower lows, and it's just expanding. I don't like to trade this. Fundamentally, though, and that's where the technicals by themselves, for me, are not the whole way to trade. I mean, I like to keep an eye on the fundamentals. I'm not a fundamental trader, but it definitely biases my technical entries and exits. So right now on the dollar CAD, I don't like it either way, because if you buy it here, I mean, we could still have a nice big 30, 40 pip retrace, and you could still be correct to the upside. So I think dollar CAD is going to move north. We talked a little bit about yesterday about the levels here, the swing highs that we had that were put in December and in November of this last year, coming in at about 135.96, call it 136. We're establishing strength above 136 now. So my opinion on the dollar CAD is that if you're going to trade it, you should be buying it. The key is finding the right entry. This news about NAFTA gave us a great entry, but I mean, if you're going to try to buy it at that point, you would have had to be a bottom picker. I mean, we took out the lows. I think they're probably, if I'm correct on this, just from all the years of talking to a lot of traders, hundreds and hundreds of traders, a lot of people probably got caught with this. So I think it's going to the upside. Just got a little private message here. Jason, where do you find the news like lumber for the CAD, etc.? All on Financial Juice. Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of banks, a lot of analysts. So I like to watch the Twitter feed along with Trump's, of course. And I use Financial Juice, and I have all my settings on Financial Juice there set so that I get stuff from like Reuters and CNBC and that kind of thing, as well as some of the world news. So I also watch YouTube videos and put in time there watching other analysts trying to get their opinions on things so I can distill it down into my own. But that's exactly right. The news about the lumber and stuff, that was even on the national news. That was on CNN and on even the local news here in my hometown as national news. So that kind of stuff. Or you can just find it right here at your favorite website, forexsignals.com. Oh, gosh. It's going to be one of those days, I think. So next we'll take a look at, well, Euro Yen we did talk about. Technically speaking, Euro Yen looks like a good short. I don't like trading the weaker Euro right now against the weak Yen, so we could see this pair go sideways for a while with indecision. And if we zoom in on this pair, you can see we've been in a fairly tight range, 50 pips or so, I mean, aside of the wicks. We've been in this range for, 30 hours. If we go all the way back, 50 hours. Euro Yen is off of my radar as far as a pair that I want to trade right now. If we see some strength come into the Japanese yen, I think the first yen pair I would look to sell would be the Euro Yen. But I'd rather be looking at buying pound yen, maybe even dollar yen. So if you're going to be long the yen pairs, I'd pick pound yen, dollar yen. If you're going to be short, I'd pick Euro Yen. Let's see. Should have stuck with my gut and bought dollar CAD last night. Still bought at 135.60, so still a win. That's right, Will. I mean, you got to go with your gut feeling on these things. But if you would have bought it last night, I mean, you sort of you're sort of going to have some luck there, right? I mean, you want to have a little luck. Sometimes people say better to have a lot of luck than a little bit of skill or a lot of skill. But I think you did the right thing by not trying to pick the bottom, because it's just something that more often than not, it's not going to work out. You still bought at 135.60. Oh, yeah, you're doing great then. Nice work, Will. Jason, I like your nice clear charts. Pound CAD, Jason, it is on major weekly resistance. Hey, Bernie. Hope you're doing well, Bernie. Pound CAD. I'm going to pull this up on a different broker here because I don't have it pulled up on this one right now. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking at another chart behind my lights here. The Pound CAD, I'm not going to pull it up right at the moment, but it is at daily resistance from August 3rd of last year. So August 3rd of last year, the Pound CAD's at this area. Now, Pound CAD has moved up 850 pips, 900 pips in the last several days. It's just like a freight train right now. I feel like the Pound CAD could be overextended. I agree with you on that one, CK, that the Pound CAD could be a decent short right now because of that strong resistance level. However, if you take a peek, even on the weekly, you can see there's even resistance coming in from back on September and November of 14. So a great level to possibly be short Pound CAD. However, I feel like the pound is one of the strongest currencies, and my fundamental outlook on the Canadian dollar is to the downside. I think it's going to be weaker and weaker and weaker on the CAD. So I still feel like even though the technicals on Pound CAD would be a really nice, safe reward to risk trade to sell Pound CAD. And again, you have to look at the zoomed out. Look at the weekly. If you got it up on your chart, look at the weekly or the daily time frame, zoom it out, and you'll see that we have a bunch of different levels here as you brought up. I still don't feel like my fundamental views align with that. So for those reasons, I'm going to stay out. But the Pound CAD has some great technical resistance coming up. Nice call on that. Alpha, yeah, Euro, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of likes on a trade idea, I agree. Could you look at Aussie New Zealand? Let's take a look at it. For some reason with this pair, I always get a little flicker there. There we go. So when we were looking at this yesterday, I just don't like this pair. The reason I don't like the Aussie New Zealand is that I don't understand the New Zealand currency. I don't follow it like I follow the others. We know there's a lot of Aussie weakness, but there's also New Zealand weakness. If I look at the strength meter, the Aussie is weak all the way across the board, and the New Zealand is also, except for just this last 5 minute. If I were going to trade Aussie New Zealand, I would be looking to sell it. We have this possible double top here. I mean, we could even pull up. I'm assuming we have some divergence here as well on the 1 hour. Yeah, which we do. So we have some divergence here of price action. It's not a lot, but we have slightly higher highs, very, very slight on the hourly. We have declining MACD. We have our stochastics that are in the overbought area, above 70. I like to see them above 80. So this meets all of our criteria as far as a divergence setup. However, it's not, the price action is not that much higher. So this is not perfect divergence, but it does meet the criteria in my opinion. Actually, I'm going to reverse this around here. Let me zoom it down to 15. Daily. 4 hour. We have this descending trend line as well on Aussie New Zealand. that's coming up here. You can see that here on the daily. I'm trying to give you the best analysis I can on this one, even though I'm not a big fan of it. Can still pay the bills if you do it right. So if I take my Fibonacci extension from the swing low to the previous swing high, that's how I do my divergence trading. We'd be looking at target 1, which is right down at the support area. That would be the 100 level, of course, the full pullback. And then we'd be looking at target 2 at the 161.8. So this is a pretty sizable move, 40 pips down and then 75 pips down total. The nice thing about trading divergence is that when you trade something like this, you have a very controlled stop. I mean, you could have a stop on this pair. You could get short right now and have a stop at 25 to 30 pips and have a reward to risk to be, 2 or 3 times that. Again, I don't trade this pair. I don't understand it fully, but that's my bias, would be to sell the Aussie New Zealand, looking for targets at 108.20s. And then target 2 at 107.86, 107.87. So what I'm going to do is just leave this up here. I'm going to save this so that we can continue to watch this as it unfolds. Cool. Good. Good. So we'll see how this unfolds. It's just a classic divergence trade. We don't have quite the power to the upside. Cool. Jesse B says, I did buy UJ at 108.70. I'm closing it right now. 108.70. Holy moly. 108.70. Nice job. So that's a trade that you had on since before the weekend and held it over the weekend and rode that sucker up. Nice trade. A little too risky for me, but it depends on your lot size, right? That's a really nice 250, 260 pip trade. Art says, hey, Jason, do you always look at your MACD and Stoic before you enter trade? I do not, Art. That's a really good question. I don't look at MACD and stochastics before entering hardly any trades unless I'm trading divergence. If I'm trading a divergence setup like the Aussie New Zealand here, then I do look at the MACD and the stochastics before entering, because those are the 2 filters that I use. For just straight up divergence trading, you look for a divergence from swing highs or swing lows with the MACD histogram. And I like to throw stochastics on there as another filter, but I just don't trade a lot of divergence anymore. Divergence is generally, not always, but generally at least short-term counter trend or contrarian trading. And over the years, I've been more consistent with staying with the trend, of course. But if you're looking to get in on some action and have some potential larger order sizes that could pay you out more with controlled stops, divergence trading is definitely nice. Jesse B says, what's your opinion on EU? EU, I don't know if you, and I mean this in a nice way, I don't know if you came on a little bit late, but this was the one that we covered. I'm just very mixed on it. I'm not confident enough on the euro dollar to take a trade right now. I do think it's going to continue lower, but I'm not confident enough to get in on this trade because we're sort of hanging on all this, gapping and stuff like that. There's just too many mixed technical bits of information for me to take a real confident, solid trade. Yeah, you got it, Art. Been here in New Zealand long. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to put together a little trade overview for you all, and I'll post it here in the room, and then I'll be around the chat a lot today. So I'll be around. If you have things that you're watching, definitely post them in the chat room for everybody to see, and post your trade ideas. I know Andrew reviews those. I'm going to start doing that as well, reviewing people's trade ideas during the stream so we can all learn from each other. And I will see you soon. Hope you make some good pips, and I will talk to you in a little bit. Thanks.